We are now live and recording, and I am in Gulf Breeze, Florida. This is Theresa J. Morris, the host of TJ Morris ET Radio, American Communications Online ACIR Radio for Dr. Rick, Allied Command Intergalactic Relation, and Aquarian Radio in Maui, Hawaii, with Janet Carroll Lessin, who is helping us today. And Janet Carroll Lessin is very good at marketing and promoting radio shows, and she and Dr. Richard Allen Miller have agreed to join me today so we can go into a discussion about a higher level of existence with imagination and how we're going to go forward in 2021 assisting each other in cyberspace. So if you're not familiar with these people, that's okay, because we're recreating our reality today in 2021, but it's 2020. So we're going to talk about time traveling, which is world science, a great thing among neuroscientists and many scientists that love to talk about things that are phenomenology. And Dr. Rick is helping us with ontology. Dr. Richard Allen Miller can talk about probably anything. He's probably the most well-known intelligence officer as the GS-18 that I've ever known, that can go places with me that nobody else in my command could ever go. Now, Janet Carroll Lessin knows me from Hawaii and holodynamics and psi seminars and Project Stargate in Aquarium Foundation. And we're going to go way back in time for all the kids working in CIA, NSA, all the other councils out there. But we're going to go above all of those back in the day, go back in time and time travel to Allied Command Intergalactic Relations, before there was an Aquarian Foundation, before the Ascension Planetary Light Group. So Dr. Richard Allen Miller, if you can go back to being Ricky, would you first introduce yourself and what you know about Janet Carroll Lessin? But when right after you introduce yourself, I'll let Janet introduce herself. But I want you to include how you know Janet, which is very interesting.
I'll let her do that story. Mine is, I would like to pretend like I'm opening for Saturday Night Live. That's on my bucket list, by the way.
Oh, good.
Well, what the hell is that? Dang, what is that? That's who I am. They couldn't figure it out. I was gifted, and I'm like, basically, my gift is I'm a 4-year-old that never became 7, and now I'm 7. No, that's accurate. And okay. I don't hear music, I see it. That's called synesthesia. I'm the highest IQ measured in the state of Washington. They had me at 168, 169 with MMPI, CPI. That's Minnesota Multiphysic Personality Inventory, blah, blah, blah. None of that is accurate. I can see through and know how to answer things, because what they're really measuring is not IQ. What they're measuring is survival coefficient. And above IQ is EQ, the emotions. That's how you feel about the physical plane. And that's why the Bene Gesserit ruled. Basically, it's a higher in a holographic system, it's more information. So it's, like a fractal coming out of itself in some kind of a generator. The problem is our concepts of space and time are not real. And the way I use that metaphor is basically that physics starts with assumed truth. If the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, the Earth's round. But space is curved. I can prove it's flat. Now, which one is it? And the correct answer is yes, because that's how limited our concept of space is, like time. It's not real. It's a construct. I did, Carl Sagan used me because I do code. I see things people don't say, whatever. And I went into John Lilly's labs 45 years ago and was there 10 days when the dolphins' language, they had a language, was a form of Clifford algebra. Their redundancy coefficient was 10 times more efficient than Hebrew. Now, the mother letters, where you have metaphor, beyond metaphor. And I was wrong. less than 3 months ago, they just showed that the dolphins don't have a language. They're sending pictures. And we didn't even conceive of that. And now we're realizing that orca chases dolphin for food chain. What does that put men? And when you realize that orca has a cerebral cortex that's literally twice the size of man, and that mammal is firing 60% of it and can go to 9/10 of the biosphere, how much can you go to? And then you stop and go, wow. And then you think you're fixing your property and making it all really nice. How many ants are on your property? As a hive consciousness, how are they terraforming under your house? You're missing big pictures by looking at, well, gee, I've got a thumb and I've got fire, I've got technology. Good luck. Back when I was doing this, they wanted to use the dolphin as a way to guide missiles and torpedoes to their target. How did the dolphin put it? And the fish, thanks for all the fish when they hitchhiked out of here. I can tell you, we don't have a clue, and we're lower on the food chain. An elephant, Cambodia, can paint itself with its trunk, literally. See, that's this. This is, we're talking now on live radio, and I want everybody to hear, watch what you do. This is what they've been doing to me 10 times every hour. Oh, you didn't do it, did you? And isn't that a coward? I'm just, that's right. They're listening to me too. And it goes down. I'm going to play it right back on them. I have had enough being hacked, being played, trying to break my family one person at a time. It's happening to me. And now I've declared war and I can't win. And Nick Begich called the other day and said, Rick, you're taking it personal. What's happened when Coast to Coast censored me? Kerry Cassidy picked me up and I did 2 hours the correct way. And my book sales were robust, except the night before my site was hacked on my bookstore. And so the sales didn't happen across the board. And the interesting thing I noted was they didn't take my bookstore out. They only hacked a part of it to limit my income. And that's keeping me on a leash. And I am just about to release the Kraken. Formally, I'm saying it out there to the person listening. I have time-domain reflectometry in my house now, so I can ping and find out exactly within 3 feet where he's tapped in. Gotcha. I'm getting tired of what's happening to me. I apologize.
Cybersecurity.
Sorry. Okay.
That was a good advertisement for cybersecurity.
Yeah. Okay. Old man DuPont came to my high school graduation because I built a linear accelerator and was the first American at 16 years old to demonstrate particles going faster than the speed of light. And they used that model called the tachyon factory to beam a bunch of muons, I did that at 15. I wrote the new meson field theory, projecting and predicting the muon. I did that at 15. Imagine what I'm doing now. Old man DuPont was there when I graduated from Washington State University. I built the first plasma jet for Giannini that later was used to make space tiles. So that's who I am. I'm a crazy old man whose bucket list includes opening for Saturday Night Live.
All right. Well, let's hope we get you on there. If not, we're going to get you on a channel. Janet Carroll Lessin, I don't know that you can top that, but do your best for Hawaii.
Impossible. Can't top it. What was the question? Let's go back to the question.
Well, just who are you and how do you know Dr. Who are you? Let's get you on record of who you are for your YouTube account and how we're going to help Dr. Rick Allen Miller be better known in YouTube reality or wherever you want to market.
Well, you'd get me a tutu and I'll put my gorilla costume on and do lap dances. How's that?
That's great. The gorilla costume. Well, I'm Janet Carroll Lessin. I was born Janet Lynn Thompson. I came into physical reality in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, February 6, 1954. So I'm almost 67 years old. Basically, I'm the youngest child of June and Bill Thompson, and our family goes back to the Mayflower on the mom's side and to the Virginia colonies on the dad's side. And so I've been tracking down my ancestry. It seems like through the years it was like arranged marriages. They wanted this lineage to come together and make children, and it's going on to today. So I moved to Maui, Hawaii in 1993. I'm a lifelong contactee experiencer. I've been in the underground base through the military. I was a private contractor. And I just had a lifelong experiences. So I met Theresa J. Morris in 1993 in Oahu, and we've been piecing together that. We kind of were in a group. We didn't like hang out and have tea every day, but we were somehow found ourselves in all these different events. Your Spiritual Center was a church in Oahu, and there was a psychic group that Theresa J. Morris had established. So we formed the Aquarian Radio and T.J. Morris ET Radio in 2012 when we started broadcasting. We both got picked up by Revolution Radio. We've been interviewed by thousands and hundreds of different, I mean, I've got over 1,000 shows already up there, and that's not counting the ones before. So Dr. Rick came into our lives somewhere. I'm not sure how we met Dr. Rick, but Dr. Rick is in the network of people that are in ufology, and which includes paranormal and everything related. So we've had Dr. Rick many times on both of our shows and individually, and he's a great guy. And we've never met Rick in person, neither of us. Have you met Rick in person? No. And
that I know of in this reality, but I do feel like past lives, because whoever's writing the code in this reality has written us some sinking or they have similar storylines. Department of Navy, both married to a CIA agent. We both lost a daughter, so we know what pain is in this reality. So, Janet, I don't know. I would think this is the perfect radio show to let people know who we really are as far as a humanoid, sentient, intelligent being. And we do know that our first reality doesn't define our second. But I'd really like to get in a very high level with both of you, because you've both known me more than 3 years. I do know that in this reality. But I want to talk about everybody's reality and how they are the background to the three of us, and how we can move forward with helping everyone on the planet. And I've been watching the IBM director as he told us we were going into the next level with the IBM company. And we are going to work on cybersecurity with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. He prefers Doc Ram or Rick. And excuse me, Dr. Rick, if I call you Dr. Rick, because that's
that.
I would like to get into how all three of us did work with the military, but Janet and I believe that somehow there's no coincidence, and I've heard Dr. Rick say that in some of his videos, that synchronicity is important in serendipity behavior. But he, being a deep hypnotherapist, we haven't trained with him, but I have hoped in this reality in 2021 there forward, if he's able to do remote webinars. I definitely still want to help him sell his books because we all need them. But Dr. Rick and Janet, I'd like to take us off planet, if you don't mind, like world science, before world science was philosophy, and before we were here. And if we can go back maybe 4.5 billion years, or however many billion you would like, and just imagine what it was like in the grid on the other side of the universe. Because one thing Dr. Rick told me that I didn't know, that NASA had decided we do have another universe. And I preached Dr. Rick Allen Miller, and I've been taken off. I understand your frustration when you're doing your best to help the universe. Here on this planet, a lot of my stuff has been taken down, and especially on Wikipedia. And I've had some stuff put in a Chinese book in a university, because I came up with the dot theory, and my name Thurmond is related to the dot theory. But I'd like to take you and Janet both to the other side of the universe And I'd like to create for the first time 3 people. And Doctor, you understand azimuthal equilateral distancing and the power of 3, and why we need the point of origin in 3, like me, you, and Janet right now, to create the other side of the universe. And people will copy us because of the copycat effect in AI. And I'm going to use some algorithms, but we are going to fix this, Dr. Rick, for you and get you.
Good luck.
So
It's already fixed.
on the other side of this universe, would you start by creating on the grid, because we know thermodynamics and everything that science knows is based on the past, which was wrong. So if it's wrong,
yeah.
how do we make it right on the other side of the universe? Because we're living in the balance.
Mars.
Synchronicity.
That's where man was first manufactured. And the asteroid belt is a really interesting rubble. And there's a lot of real interesting things they're discovering in the asteroid belt that connect with Mars. Basically, CERN right now is a rapid transit experiment between Switzerland and Fermilabs in Chicago. If that works.
I've been there. I was trained there. I was
Yeah.
trained there, Fermilabs in Chicago.
In
my Navy.
It's pronounced Chicago. Sorry, I'm just kidding.
Chicago. Okay.
Chicago. Yeah.
I want you to know in this reality.
Yeah, I'm sorry?
You're talking about it, and in the reality on the other side of the universe, the one that
not according to New Orleans and their style of jazz, or Washington D.C. and the Cellar, been there too. Basically, man, as I'm understanding it best, is being held back, like I am personally.
Yeah.
And it's a metaphor, if you will. That's Gregory Bateson. What is your metaphor but to serve your paradox?
Okay.
It's the way you go from one concept to another. Now, as related. But guess what? The neurotransmitter lysergic acid amide is the neurotransmitter that does in connecting dots.
Wow.
What else? Oh, yeah, gets better.
The wow.
Connecting dots is arbitrary. That's where Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is playing, and she comes out and says, anything goes. And that's less than halfway to God in terms of your ability to conceptualize concepts like space and time.
Okay. So would you agree that we should use space and time in this new universe?
No, we don't. No, it doesn't work like that.
So we have to separate it.
Here's one for you.
No space, no
time. If not real, what does that make your daughter? Now, if that's true, what are we talking about timelines and the relationship of how you dialogue with yourself? Because this place, consciousness, isn't real. There's more dream states like lucid dreaming that have more content to reality. We're missing the bigger picture in terms of how we relate to our point of origin. Let me put it this way. All roads lead to Rome, but you need a North Star to know what direction you're going.
So if the North Star in the new reality,
I'm using it as a metaphor.
Well, universally, we're talking. And so in phenomenology, that's an amazing thing in itself, because we're trying to find a way to use sound and vibration to communicate. So we're just having a conversation.
Okay, I'm going to correct you on one thing that's very important. Max Rampell is trying to get me from Russia, and he keeps popping up here. Max Rampell, by the way, is a second-generation Russian doing his mentor, Garyaev and Popov, quote from my original work on the biohologram, and they got on a list for a Nobel Prize, which means I'll get one in that arena. But he's trying to buzz me. He's working on proton clouds, and the community I did with him just a minute ago was, if Schrodinger's cat house is the cat dead or alive, that's in quantum mechanics. And holographic systems, they know it is Schrodinger's best little cat house in Texas, probably. And there's cats that are dead, cats that are alive. And of course, all cats are in the process of dying, and Microsoft owns it. Just kidding.
Microsoft.
Now, well, Proton Cloud is the new way of trying to discuss the distinction between taking an analog system and quantizing it like we're doing with digital.
Yes.
Now, that's a concept where we do it in steps. That's a quantum universe using space and time as measurements. But then you have Heisenberg with an uncertainty principle that says, written in bold letters, the more you know about one thing, the less you know about another. Can't get there from here. So I envisioned a new model back then called holographic. I was working for old man DuPont, and I walked down the hall at the experimental station in Wilmington, and I saw this three-dimensional color TV operational. Right then, that was in, 1966. And I went, where's that, by the way, in our marketing? Oh, I'll talk about that later if you'd like. What I met was the man that got a Nobel Prize for that came up with the hologram, where he took a two-dimensional film, could do coherent light through it, and it created a three-dimensional hologram. And that's because instead of space and time, he used information. Now, and resolution of information, that's your IQ, EQ, in your hierarchy, fractals. You have generators, Mandelbrot, Julia May, but information is also not what you think it is. There's a theorem that states, if you have enough information to ask a coherent question, you have enough information to answer it. That means you're limited, and information can't get you there either. So I've come up with a new concept, which is about the mind's eye. That's why you have two brains. You got science and religion. You got star and Nibiru or something out there, and then you got that black hole and a white hole on the other side. What we're talking about is man's ability for choice, and that's what made us God's favored, because each one of us is different.
Well, on this note, we're talking about the new universe on the other side of the universe that we know. And for right now, Doc, if we can use the balance of the center of your glass, your hourglass that you turn over, I've seen it in your house. And
that glass, we're drinking it out of it.
Okay, your hourglass, and we can use that as infinity squared, if you don't mind, because right now
infinity squared is a mathematical concept of hierarchies, and that was early on a English professor did that mathematics. That's old stuff. What's happening now is we're not interested in either the analog or the digital, but that place between the two of them, and that's called a protein. That's a proton cloud, and that's what Max Rampell is doing right now, off of his mentor Gary Aya. He came up and interviewed May, and he's doing Burt Webb in Seattle. The two of us were architecture on the holographic concept. And I can tell you that it won't be string theory that's used. It'll be knot theory, Kaufman probably, where you tie strings into knots, and because they have a sheath, they don't mix, and so you have a bowline and another Boy Scout knot, and that's the way the universe works in various knots, just like on board ship.
All right, so now we're talking about magnetism and how in space, but Dr. Rick, on the other side of the universe, let's talk about
the other side. Yeah, that's called into the out of. And I can tell you that's cavitation processes like time travel. That's a chapter in the non-local mind that's going to press next week. That's called time travel and the true nature of cavitation. And if you want information on that, start with, MIT and LeClaire. Mark LeClaire is doing some very interesting things at MIT. Over at Columbia, I personally worked under Jerry Pollack at the UW back in the 70s. Can you imagine? And water has the same concepts going on with isotopes and structured waters and Oh, yes, clusters of water. That's Kerry Reams and Willard, old man Willard. Yeah, these concepts are going to set up a whole new concept in our periodic chart where each element, when made into a molecule, if it has a dipole moment, will have its own chart of possibilities. And water, you know, structured water, H3O2, is how the wave is formed in the water. And that wave is an example of cold fusion in nature right now with muons, oh yeah, my particle, and all the rest of it. And I'm actually, did I mention I'm still working for the military? Oops.
No. Are you a contractor?
I'm a GS-18. Captain in command. I run bunkers. And if the president, I don't care what color or race he is, they'd be passengers like you. I have full command on that and independent of anybody. I don't report to anybody above me. Hoorah. Now, with that said, I've had enough nonsense with what's going on, and I've called in some markers because I'm going to cause some serious trouble. I do not want to see a revolution in this country. You don't throw something away like my 280Z, you fix it.
Well, we're working with bits, qubits, and entanglement right now.
Well, that's the D-wave concept. That's still leading edge. Well, yeah, that's what's hassling me. If you're doing your purpose, why you chose to be here rather than intent, or you're not coming from a place of wounding, I can't see you because you're not in discord with anything. That's called the flow, or what is that called? The line in the road with my sports car, where you just hit that center place, you know, where everything's just perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
The balance of the pendulum.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, so how can we assist you, Doctor? Because you're so well known in radio land, and we know that you're doing public relations for the United States of America, but you're also doing it for the entire Galaxy Command, the Allied Command, the U.S. Secret Space, and I guess what we're going to call Space Command, and a lot of other bunker places. But yeah, working with the new language that we're doing with algorithms, and we're making it as easy as we can with
Here's the bad news. I can't get out of here and go home until everyone else listening to my voice right now gets off the couch and does your thing too. Because it turns out, none of us are more important than anyone else. And every single person here can slough and couch potato and eat more Dorito corn chips, whatever. And but that's why at the moment of death, you have one last choice you get to make. And you have either the blue light where you're getting off the wheel, this is Bordeaux Thadol now, or the tunnel of light where you've got your dog and your old girlfriend waving at you. Come on back, the water's fine. You know, the 5 grams of weight loss at the moment of death, Hammeroff and others have been trying to talk about microtubules with structured water. And 5 grams, that's your chi. 5 grams of structured water is enough memory, metaphor, to hold 100,000 lifetimes. You're in a video game if you want to look at it that way. And the why I ask you what your daughter was, if time isn't real, isn't that an interesting thing? She died. Mine did. One of them died of leukemia. One became a hermit. She doesn't talk to anybody and runs the big center down here for medical doctors. And the third one is she went back to college when she was 40 and now is controller for the state of Oregon. They call her to the Pennypola. And something is interfering with my relationship with my friends, individual friends, my relationship with a woman and my daughter. And I'm taking it personal, and Nick says I can't, because if I do, what will happen is exactly what I said. I'll be coming from a place of wounding.
Yes. But it is a part of us, our emotional, stable.
Exactly. And
We
you've
can't
got 6
deny
daughters
that.
coming up in the next lifetimes, probably, Mama.
One of the smartest men that's worked for Microsoft and Apple and Google, Mr. Lee. I don't know if his first name, I want to call him Kung Fu, but it's Key Lee or Key Fu Lee. But I listened to him recently, and he's helping us get to the next level. I'm a CE5 person in the UFO business with Janet, and I don't know what we're going to do except go ahead back into the universe that we're living in now and put this information on the other side of the universe on hold right now.
Black goo thrives at Chernobyl, Fukushima. Oh, yeah, they turned it back on. Can you imagine? And 3 Mile Island. And you could, like the ants under your house terraforming, see that something is terraforming the earth right in front of your eyes. And basically, it thrives in radiation. So, you know, the New Madrid fault line has 21 Daiichi-like reactors. They're all leaking. It takes 1 full year to power one down. Why are they still running? When Yellowstone is showing lava underground tomography in Ohio.
So you want to talk about this reality, I take it. So
no, I want to talk about the fact that this reality is a metaphor as best any of us, including me, can comprehend on the other side of Nome.
Janet, it's your turn to ask a question.
Yeah,
I'm going to mute.
There was a lot. It's like smaller snippets. Okay, so I was on Johnson Atoll, and in the early, I don't know what it was, they started launching nukes and testing from Johnson to Bikini Atoll, and then one of them blew up over the island, and when I got there in 1995, they had scraped the top layer of the island over to behind a wire fence, and they said that was all radioactive. You could work there. You had to don on a full suit. You could go in there and do something to clean that up. And yet there was so much wildlife there. It was amazing. You had to be careful where you parked your bicycle at night. No cars, just bicycles for the employees, because you could come out and a bird may have used your seat for their nest. And so, and you weren't allowed to move your bicycle. It was a wildlife sanctuary military base. So my question, and then the ocean, there were so many fish that you could get down to the water and take, your leftovers from the mess hall, because there's no way to, save your leftovers, feed it to the fish, and they were crawling all over your feet. I've never seen such wildlife as Johnson Atoll, which is supposed to be where nukes have exploded. And you mentioned that whatever's going on, this new life form likes radiation. So what was going on in Johnson Atoll? I was there from December 1995. I left in February 97. And what happened to me is I went to the underground base. Through hypnosis, I recovered that I worked down there, just like Preston Nichols used to work the underground base at Montauk.
Hey, bitch.
So, hey, honey, I'm on the radio. Anyway,
I got it. Silver Cross.
Cat ran.
Slap it on their forehead.
Tell Dr. Lessin. Does Dr. Lessin want to say hi? Dr. Lessin, let him.
No, this is normal. That's fine.
He just got back he's stinky. Okay, so what about what I just mentioned there? How is that? Okay, so Dr. Michael Sala said that in 2009 that Obama, when he took office, their people met there. Then they had the meeting right before. It seemed between the change of the guard, they had a meeting right before Trump took the crown, so to speak, in Antarctica. Kerry went down there. So there's a changing of the guard right now. I wonder if anybody has any insights, if there's going to be another meeting. I'm working with some of my whistleblowers, and they're saying there's something that happens with the extraterrestrials during this changing of the guard. And then, what I saw was, I definitely saw extraterrestrials. I saw about 1,000 Anunnaki, a bunch of different species. There were 3 or 4 different gray types. There were reptilians. There were mantis. Everybody was there on a big meeting. And I won't go into the full thing, but it was a huge meeting, and there were a lot of representatives from different countries there. Gloria Hawker told me recently of a meeting in 1997 when Clinton was going out, and I guess Bush the first was coming in. No, was that, how did it go? Was that Bush the second? Bush the second was coming in. That they had a big meeting, probably in White Sands. She and a bunch of humans with their hybrid children were flown in a large circular craft to White Sands. There's a big tent set up. Once again, there were representatives from a dozen different extraterrestrial species. There were representatives from all the different nations, and then every living president at the time was there at her meeting. So I just gave you all this information. Dr. Rick, what do you think about that? What is going on, and what can we expect to see? And what's with the radiation in Johnson Atoll when there was so much light? It was amazing.
Well, I can't tell you that I know because I don't. What I can do is tell you what I do know and what I suspect. That's the best I can do on that. Okay. I worked paranormal for the military. Back in the 70s, we knew about aliens, but we were more concerned with what the Russians were doing. That's where they put me. Paranormal, Baxter and the Secret Life of Plants. Flanagan sharpening razor blades in a pyramid. Creating super soldiers. I did the first SEAL team. I trained them. SEAL Corps, okay. Worked for Dr. Carl Schleicher, the smoking man, the real deal. I was his Northwest Regional Director. There was Bill Franklin. Wilbur Franklin was at Kent State and did Chicago. Sorry, it's and then he Schleicher did the East Coast, mostly all the Montauk, that stuff back there. And we broke it into 3 levels. I have been as far in as the North Pole, inside the Arctic Circle at Fort Yukon. They flew me in. I've seen artifacts. I had one artifact I studied. This is important concepts. It's written about in Crash Collusion, a zine on, that's now on, called The Modern Alchemist, an interview with May. And I talked about Chicago, this artifact I had, even with my top secret clearances and vault permits. I had green tags on my red badge. I was like, well, I ran bunkers, and even back then in the Nixon era. And
wow, you're old.
I was that person that was right under old man DuPont, and Schleicher knew it. My mentor, Dr. Stanley Krippner, that had written a book called Dream Telepathy. There's Lessin. Keep talking. Oh, yes, ma'am. Keep walking. That's the auto at the San Francisco airport. Keep walking. That's a monotone. Okay, so then I get this call from like an entity, Krill, wants to talk to me, wants to meet me. What's that mean? I don't know. I don't know anything about aliens. Do aliens exist? How could they not? Okay. Who?
Krill?
Yes. K-R-I-L. Yes. K-R-L-L. They spell it differently. I was taken down 8 floors, level 8, pretty deep at that time. Back in the 70s, like 70, I think it was 73 and 74, right between 73 and 74. They only had 8 layers. They have more now, or did, before they closed it. And I'm not briefed at all. I have no idea why I'm there. And I walk into this room, and there's this long table with big stacks of things, and I have 1 hour to brief myself and to read about, Majestic, Whitley Schreiber, that kind of thing, and what President Truman had to deal with, because it started with him. And we have this entity. Then the door opens.
Truman, Harry S. Truman. Can we
Yeah. That's when Majestic was formed, MJ12.
That's when I believe I met him and sat on his lap. So my code name was
I met him when I was 4 years old. My dad was going to pre-I, and again, we're now talking on national radio.
Hi there, this is Stephanie calling with Med Alert Pros on a recorded line.
On a recorded line, and that's what they're doing every 10 minutes. And it's been all day today. Boy, it's not even human. If that sounds human, it's not human, because if you ask her, are you a human being? There's a static and then they disconnect.
Right.
Now, okay, boom. So what happens next is the door opens and this entity, so about 7.5 feet tall, has a long neck. It's gray, doesn't have any features, as if it's wearing a still suit, a suit. It was. And I'm hearing voices in my head, which led me later with Alan Frey to write about synthetic telepathy and how to communicate in space. What that is in the 0.3 to 3 gigahertz microwave band. What it does is it heats up your temporal lobes, and they heterodyne audio, and you hear it in your head, not through your ears. And it's like for hearing impaired, that would be a wonderful thing. People that are deaf, or you're out in outer space and you want to communicate, you use synthetic telepathy. Well, that's the good side of it, just like nuclear energy. Then there's the other side. That's what man does. Polarizes into union of opposites. That's part of your transformation and processes of enlightenment. And I'm hearing this voice in my head. It's feminine. I don't feel any. And then I have no memory what the entity did. And they tried to debrief me probably 3 or 4 weeks with drugs, hypnosis, all kinds of ways, because it had cameras watching me. And there's no audio. It's like we're just staring at each other.
Can we ask what color the suit was?
Gray. It's gray. Gray blue, gray.
No genitals showing. Sort of
I could not see anything. I couldn't even see a mouth. She had a mouth, but I don't think it was used for anything. Certainly not eating. So ears? I don't know. I'm sorry.
Do you remember ears? Ears?
I can't.
Hearing?
Wait. You're that's the problem right now.
The vision.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Wait. I can't. I can see it. I can get it. I can't get at it. I can't. It's really, even today, I don't know what happened. I know something I don't know. Is that the right? I don't know.
I understand. It's okay. Maybe you need to let that go. That seems like it's still a wound.
Well, no. It's going to be, I have this awful feeling. It's going to be the Kraken.
Ooh.
At a moment of need, they're going to release the Kraken, the floodgates. And I will have full disclosure, and then I'm supposed to do something. I have no clue what it is yet. However, stay tuned, film at 11. Next week on Saturday Night Live.
Do you have some water close by? You can take a break for a minute, because
sure.
You're very high energy.
I know. I tried to get into this, and I can't. I can do that. Okay, I can do that.
You can do a self-hypnosis?
I don't know what happened, but I can tell you something. The artifact that I studied in Chicago, they never told me where it came from. They never give you full disclosure, even at my level. I mean, I'm
understand.
Oh, well, no, not understand. I don't really, because with more information, I can piece things together better than anybody I know.
Yes, sir.
But why don't they give me full disclosure? Who's got that? Certainly not a higher thing than me. I'm not a human. I don't know. Let's go page 2 on that. I started studying under Gershom Scholem. I did 6 years Hermetic Kabbalism at New York City College. He was my mentor also. And I'm not a Zadi or a Jewish mystic. I'm a hermetic Kabbalist is what I am. I use it in my magic as I would use mathematics in my physics. Okay? And I'm real good. I had 6 years. I speak Old Hebrew. I did my own biblical translations. I have my own conclusions, different than anyone else's. And I don't know, but I suspect that man is being controlled by something to get to a certain point, and then they wipe the slate and we go back again. Because if that's true, okay, well, epochs. What does that make time? And what do you think is going on? And why do we
time doesn't exist in this reality, right?
Then what does epoch mean?
But gravity exists.
And what does limitation mean? Okay, I have some questions I can't answer because I can't conceive of it. Now that, whatever you could conceive God could do, Earth in 7 days, is probably how limited you are in conceptualizing, and that's less than halfway to God, and what you probably are capable of doing should you find a way to access the other 9/10 of your cerebral cortex. Your feminine inner part of me, your masculine inner part of you, dialogue, knowledge and conversation. Why? Working from the gut, enteric nervous system, you don't make mistakes by definition. So what's the brain up here? This is a second brain. Well, this one is the one that releases neurotransmitters to dialogue with subtle bodies outside the physical.
Yes.
And, well, as a metaphor, because the physical body is just, the other side of your galaxy, is a metaphor, okay, of what something else is going on. If you want a good concept that Continuum, that movie, Continuum, is number 6 in science fiction as most accurate with physics.
Why don't we go there?
Well, okay, he goes through a wormhole. He's at the other side of the universe, and he wants to communicate to his daughter that he's alive. How does he do it? He pushes books out of a bookstore, out of a bookshelf, paranormal, to communicate to her in the hopes he can communicate he's still okay. And it turns out at the end of the movie, he comes back, he's still young, and she's already gone or has children. I forget how that works. Matthew McConaughey. But that's an accurate metaphor.
I relate to that.
Limited we are in conceptualizing what's really going on. Yes. And I know I don't know. And I'm as good as it gets. If I can't know, then I'm the length, girth, and width of what we are. And actually, we are a unit at some level where I am you, and you are me, and I am the walrus.
Well, may I help a little bit with that? With that movie? Can I help you a little bit with that? Continue that movie?
Do I need what? Toilet paper or what? What's going on? Yeah. I'm full of it.
You know how you were talking about that? If we take the other side of that, I can tell you that when we leave the planet, this is the way I conceive or what I've experienced in this reality, probably with the U.S. Navy, our Department of Defense, or your Pentagon, or Harry Truman, or Majestic 12. They have a level of people in this world, which especially Germans, that were clear. They knew about dying and being on the other side. But when they worked with my husband, leaving the planet and coming back, we would have a differentiation of time that we could not put back in time travel. Because on this reality with the Department of Army working under base, like you said, he was working Department of Army, I was working Department of Navy. But we thought all this was going to be cleared in 1989 with Bob Lazar. So the fact is, do you remember Ronnie Zamora, or Lonnie Zamora? And that story with, just had Norio Hayakawa on from Japan. He became a citizen. I don't know if you know Norio.
I do.
But he did some stuff there he believes in like energy and orbs, but he can't wrap his mind around the UFO or the biological nuts and bolts. But when I didn't get to
Wait a
tell
minute.
him,
Boeing, just FYI, Boeing for the last 10 years has a magnetic monopole, and a lot of the visuals up there are ours, not something else. As we've, back we have a magnetic monopole now, so that probably is Boeing doing things too. Not aliens, of course.
well, we had the holographics there in Dulce as well, right? We were bouncing holograms off of the moon, so to speak, and we still do, but that was not known yet. So that's how the Richard Doty story got started, right?
Yeah.
Was defending that with Linda Moulton Howe, and that's a movie now.
Rishi Motoyama's, all his original data physically in my possession. Remember him? He put a human being in a black box, Faraday cage, and had psychics communicating through a Faraday cage. Remember those experiments?
Oh, the Faraday cages, yes.
Yeah. Rishi Motoyama was out of Japan. I have seen things I don't understand, we don't understand, that are real. Like, for example, a woman that would rip a car door up to save her daughter in a flaming automobile. Now, that's physically impossible, to be body strong enough that it didn't tear trying to pull steel apart. How do you do that? And everybody gets it, that she can do it. How does that work physics? It doesn't.
It's our immortal essence in another reality, possibly tapping into the dimension. But maybe you and I should be the ones to discuss realms and dimensions and how you foresee from this movie that we're using as a metaphor, I guess is like you said, with Matthew McConaughey. Hey,
yeah.
That's a good movie.
Well, metaphor, it was when I said, Gregory Bateson said, what is your metaphor but to serve your paradox? So I have a pair of ox in my meadow.
Well, with you.
Now you're getting what that is. They're unrelated. And we see a connection. That's what makes it real and is less than halfway to God.
Did you see the movie Devs, D-E-V-S, by chance?
Huh?
You did?
Yeah, I go to everything. I watch Being There, where
I had no idea.
Where he walks on water at the end of the movie. I've seen things. I'm a big movie. That's what I do for recreation.
Are you with IMDb?
What?
IMDb is part of Amazon.
Yeah, there's all of this.
And movies.
Listen, I collected occult things like The Valley.
Okay, we're back to stay in this reality, right? Movies bring you back to this reality.
That's what I did. I know. Here we are. Because no matter where you go. Oh, that's Thunderdome. Sorry.
Well, we're going to be talking about you writing some of the great screenplays and helping others. Janet says she had to get her lunch.
That's the lower inner child, like a dog. How come my dog loves you more than me? Because I feed it bacon.
Okay, I'm sitting here. Remember, my daughter brought me mine, but I'd like to continue. We haven't even hit an hour, Dr. Rick. So Janet says she'll be back at another time, maybe. So
I'll tell you what, and that's illusion. So we're going to do another time, not maybe. It will happen. Why? Because she already mentioned it.
Okay. That's a good way. So these are lessons that we could teach free, open source. I'd like to mention your friend, Carrie Cassidy, because I've never met her or talked to her.
Would you like to?
I would. I'll
give you her personal home number.
Wow. Yeah. Well, you need to ask her if she would be.
I already did, just like I did for my webmaster. And Carrie is quite gracious and willing to meet anyone that I would like to introduce. So that's it. There it is. Done deal.
Thank you.
I will, just for you, I will ask her first and have her write you by me doing a letter of introduction between the two of you. How's that work?
Wow. Thank you so much.
Okay, no big deal. Now, I don't have any money, but I got lots of doors I can open. That's
Well,
no big
thank you.
deal, man.
I respect her work of 20 years in Hollywood or close to it, and then knowing you and how she has derived a level of universal thought patterns for how she has tracked the history of alienology and covering aliens that I personally have never met nor want to. But Janet had she studied.
You just met one. Hi.
Okay.
I'm Pisces, and I've got type O negative blood. Oops.
Oh, do you? So that means that you are one of
Oh,
the
yeah,
few.
David Bowie. Here, let me do my eye.
Well, you have all these things, like you said, that people like to relate to. So did you know Brad Steiger, Sherry Steiger in the
Yes,
Star
yes.
People movie?
I knew.
Star
Because one step beyond that whole series was about my mother and my grandmother working for the Seattle Police Department.
In the Star People with Brad and Sherry Steiger?
No, with psychics. That's why Rind came through when I was a child to study in the 50s to see if there was a hereditary thing on ESP back then with
Oh,
my
okay.
sister. Okay, and I was taken to the foundation in North Carolina, and for children, I was gifted. I could do
Was
things.
that before Monroe in
Yes, Monroe did. He was still a
three?
person.
Know that
He
you
was
and I have
way
some
back then.
type of relation with that.
In the 70s, and I'm talking about the 50s. Ryan tested me. I'm a fourth stage telepath. That means that when I speak, I change the reality within about 3 blocks of myself. Everybody is my reality. I don't do that. When they put me in this foundation, I told my father I didn't want to be here, and he took me out. It isn't like the movie in Firestarter. I could leave. If my parents didn't want me there, they took me out. I don't know what it's like now, but back then I was one of those kinds of things. I can do things I can't explain or want to talk about now, but I can do it. I don't. Why? I'm a satsangi. I was initiated at Sharon Singh. I'm not interested in anything but spiritual growth, and that's the truth of it. And it doesn't, that's why I call it high magic. Anything I do in sacred time, going from the profane into the sacred, is only for spirituality, and then it doesn't matter what it costs. I did
So
a
you
ritual.
work for God, as they say.
Well, I don't work for God.
You don't have an agenda.
I don't have an agenda. That's correct. That I don't have an agenda. I work with my instinct and why I chose to be in this purgatory in the first place. And I can tell you that in metaphor, I haven't been born yet. I'm a time traveler. How do I know that? In hypnosis, to go through the Gil Boyne schools, you have to do 60 hours of therapy, and they do a regression. Most people do past lives. I wanted to do a future life.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I did. I wanted to do a future life. What am I going to do? And what my memory, because I have this incredible memory I remember detail.
Wow.
I'm part of a triad, not by triad, with a vehicle that were no controls, sliding into geometry. And the name of that geometry was Such Khan. And I can tell you detail on that. And you will find those words and that concept all the way back into the Upanishads and Voice of the Silence. Right now, I am hearing the Shabbat, which Terence McKenna called the lost chord, or Moody Blues. It's really 0-point energy resonance. What it is Gaia. She's conscious. The mycelium is the nerve tissue of mycorrhiza in its communication. That's a woman up in UBC that talks about Gaia as a living entity, and she's singing at the end of the rainbow. You can hear her. And for me, it's a classic song that I can't, I hear it constantly. I just started paying more attention. And when you listen to that, what happens is a difference between astral projection and soul travel. And that's Paul Twitchell. And he, with Ekankar and the rest of it, what happens is I go home for a brief moment and refresh or reboot, or like sex.
Into the future?
Sex, and all of a sudden, after the orgasm, nothing matters as much. You're in a mellow place because of the neural. Okay. There's something that is important. And this is the most important thing I'm going to say tonight.
Okay.
Man has a responsibility for the thoughts he chooses to entertain. What you think is what happens. That's why when you have sex, if you're at the moment of orgasm, if you're thinking about someone else, you can count on it happening.
Ooh.
Now, I've been practicing this, and one time in early ages, I wanted $50,000. Well, I got it, but not quite the way I wanted it. Well, a truck ran over me and I got an insurance claim for my hospital bills. How's that sound? Yeah, that's, you get it, but because your mind,
cost.
it warbles. And because it warbles, you get it, but not exactly.
I've never heard that word. Warbles?
Yeah, warbles.
Wobbles.
And warble and, you know, crashing from one wall to the other, karma, creating, kashik. Yeah.
How do you spell that? W-O-R-B-L-E?
Don't worry about it. Warble. It's warped, warble. Wobble, a warped
it
wobble.
It may be from the old Appalachian days.
No, I just come up with these words. You know how it is.
Okay.
Live from New York. It's
yeah, live from New York.
Just kidding. You know, there's
how do we get you on that show? I don't even know. It's come back, right? But we need to get you on that show. Now, I saw, I don't know how one of Janet's friend, well, he's a friend of mine too. I've met him in human form. Alfred Lambert, not Alfred Lambert Weber, but he was part of that. He said,
see, I've been in his home, spent the night there, have dinner. I did 2 years ago, and then got a ferry boat right back off of Vancouver Island. Yeah, that's cool.
Andrew Bashago was on Steve Colbert. Did you watch?
There's very few people out there that are actually real without agendas.
Washington, Andrew Bashago, and Alfred Lumbermont Weber working with the International something of law.
Hey, don't forget Janet. I mean, Carol Rosen. Yeah, and her husband.
Carol Rosen. I've never met
and her husband. They live just down the street. John Cipher has been in my home. I loved Hill Street Blues. Oh man, that was one of my most favorites, especially Belker. He's sitting in putting his mom in a bathtub. He's trying to get her unstressed.
Well, you like movies and television, and you helped with X-Files, and The Smoking Man is the one I met, and you said he worked Chicago. I was in the office.
No. Dr. Carl Schleicher. No.
Schleicher.
He was on Wisconsin Avenue in Washington, D.C. for 48 years in the same desk. How does that?
So that's why
Franklin that worked under him in Chicago, and I was UW, but I had Jet Propulsion Lab. I had China Lake. I had Argonne. Andrea Puharich was one of my teachers. He ran SRI with Bill Tiller, and I studied under him, but I was above them when I had a project. I had deep pockets when I was going after something. Any toy I needed that would dictate where I would do the study, because I needed toys, big toys, and I did that.
You're trusted.
Last long time, Charlie, and I did that for years because nobody else could do that. When you have something weird like Keith Milton Reinhardt from the Aquarian Foundation, how does that work? Like boys,
is he deceased now?
Oh yeah.
So he began that in 1955.
Jack Schwartz is another one I studied at Manager Foundation.
But that's still
going. How do you do it? Well, you look at autonomic functions. And you know, Puharich wrote a book that was called Beyond Telepathy. And that's a worthwhile read. That's way back. And what I've written was how to access ESP as an altered state of consciousness, because these are where you have tools to do things you can't do with consciousness. And right here, you can win a psychic contest against Gene Dixon and Sybil Leek. I did that in 3 orders of magnitude with Duke. Using my model that I trained SEALs, thinking with the enteric nervous system, Another one over here, I'm going to have the strength of 10, like an ant does, or like on methamphetamine over here. And what I'm doing now is I'm mapping ontology of where one state starts and the other stops as tools in a toolbox. And the upper brain is not meant to be absolute. It's meant to be used as a tool. And one of the things I taught SEALs is how to change a belief system like you would a pair of clothing. Because in the heat of summer, you do not wear your favorite sweater. It's a metaphor. You go to Afghanistan as a Christian, you get your team killed. Doesn't mean you get rid of it. Fold it up very neatly, put it into the drawer, pull it out when it's necessary. People belief systems are arbitrary. They are arbitrary. Now, I choose to be a moral man rather than ethical man. Ethical man knows not to cheat on his wife. A moral man won't. And the morals in Afghanistan are quite different than the morals in America. Who's better? Neither. And that's the problem with Christianity, is they do the one thing that Christ told them not to do, making judgment on another. The only person you can judge is yourself. And you hold your own line. That does not make that right for you, what my belief is. That's why we were God's favored, because we can make those choices and be correct, because our limitations cannot comprehend. God does not fighting an equal enemy. He's not at war with anything in that conceptual thing. We polarize the Lord into the God and the devil.
Consciousness.
Get into Tibetan Buddhism, the Bordeaux Thadal, and I'm guessing that crashed spacecraft on the other side of the moon is probably Tibetan.
Tibet?
Well, I'm using that as a metaphor.
That time frame.
I went up to Tibet. One of the paranormal things I did was I went to Tibet to validate. They have these big long horns, kind of like they blow in the Alps, but these are different. And if they put 17 of them in a certain geometric alignment, and they blow these horns, they so compress the air, a large stone lifts off the ground.
Wow.
Push it around with a finger.
Amazing.
Saying that. That's Tibetan, not Chinese.
Sound vibration.
What?
Is that how they moved everything big and the stones and the pyramids?
Okay, Janet, that's the second time you've used vibration. I'm now going to give you a metaphor to do vibration and bandwidth. Color is not light. Color is a specific wavelength, green, and 200 shades of gray. Bandwidth, the whole that we call green. So a painting on the wall is quite different than what you see out in nature. As a holographic system, a vibration is less bandwidth. If you use bandwidth, you're no longer talking about color, you're talking about wavelength. And you're talking about wavelengths, so you shouldn't say use vibration, you should say bandwidth.
Sound and bandwidth.
Sorry, stop me.
No, I appreciate that, because we have to communicate.
Yeah,
and
because the
proper
vibration.
words we both understand.
Yeah, it's that term that's used in music.
And
We have 40 and 438 and 432 and da-da-da-da-da and cymatics and da-da-da and da-da-da, rot.
Exactly. So language is important and sound is important, and we use the keyboard. Why is it that we never have more than A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or sharps and flats?
Because
I was asked that.
One of the Bibles, the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, talks
so it's Jewish.
about
the piano
how
is Jewish.
words and sound are important to say it correctly, bandwidth. And when you say the name of the Lord, Yahweh Yahi, correctly, something more happens. And that's why Hebrew is a more efficient language. There it is, the dog. Look at her, she turned her mic on too. Oh, I love it. That's real life, as we all know it. Yeah. Tell him you're gonna feed him to the cats if he doesn't stop.
The opposite of God is good on delivery is dog, right?
Yeah.
I have my other daughter coming in. Steffi was here earlier.
You know, and that as good as
Now,
it gets.
Angela Dawn Parrish, my first love, born March 20th.
Look at her eyebrows when she says
That's
that.
why my dog's born. And Janet says she's listening to us. She just doesn't want to show her face while she's eating dinner.
Oh, well, you know, that's in the movie As Good as It Gets, when the gay guy goes up to Jack Nicholson and he says, "Why does my dog love you more than me?" Jack Nicholson does his little, you know, his eyes slant and all that, and he says, "I feed it bacon." The dog thinks with its stomach. That's why it's closer to spirit and why we love our dogs. Oops. Oh man, that's a great one. I love it. Oh, Janet, no, I mean, Theresa, that's wonderful.
I am Teresa's eldest daughter, and I was popping by to switch the laundry out and feed the animals and make sure my mom has dinner.
Is that your daughter?
Great night.
That's a great person.
Could you see her? Come here. He didn't see you. Could you see her?
I don't look good right now. Hi.
Uh-oh.
Richard Allen.
Yeah, you're a heartbreaker. I can tell right away.
Hi, Janet.
Yeah. Hi.
I'm glad you finally met her, because you and I were talking on the phone from time to time a couple of years ago when she was working at the event in Navarre, the Days in Navarre Convention Center. Oh, she lost her job because of COVID-19 2 months ago. She said to
here's the bad news.
She knows your name over the years, Doctor.
Oh, there's a lot of people. It's down there in the post office on one of these posters there. But
well, you're known as Dr. Rick in my house, so because you're part of our ACO and our association, and you're very good with our spiritual community. And she knows my daughter started Ascension Center organization with me, and the Ascension Church Ohana is like Hawaii, but you know, we have a spiritual community, and I guess in a way, Doctor, you're part of our spiritual community, whether you know it or not.
I do know it, and I'm proud to be part of what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're all just doing it out of our hearts, and we don't make any money.
My father said this to me once. There are 3 ways to be in this world. There's the vulgar, the adept, and the exempt. The vulgar get audited. The adept gets money back from the government, taxes. The exempt has a 501c3. I can be part of your organization, and I'm still a nerd over here. I don't have to participate. I was a jock in high school, but I didn't want to have sex with all the cheerleaders because I was afraid I couldn't go to college.
Well, you can be a director because of your metaphysical and spiritual.
I'll just be, you know, a fly on the wall.
Well, you're very important to us because you're our mentor master.
Look at your hair out like that.
Yeah, our bodhisattva.
Like the flying nun. That's what you ought to do, start singing with a guitar.
Why was I doing that? I did that without thinking. That's hilarious. So you're affecting me emotionally. That was, what would you say?
I'm trying to do. I'm speaking, or I'm attempting to try to speak on a higher level so that every time you listen to what I'm saying, you get something more out of it.
Thank you. I always do.
I'm doing as much as I can in communication.
I love that. You know that. I admire you, and you're my mentor in the spiritual.
I'm not a mentor. I'm just.
Well, you have the word.
Please.
All right, a colleague.
I don't mean to be. I am good in certain areas. I'm doing other things than others. I know that I don't know. And I know that physics, and I'm as good as it gets, will not really actually get me there. That's why physics laws change every so often, because we change our assumed truths and definitions. Right. And yet, well, if you believe the world's flat, these are the realities available. Oh, no, I can fall off the door.
What about Campbell? What about that?
I can open these doors. But that's why when you change your beliefs, you can do anything you want and have access to all the doors.
And that's what you taught us in the Marines, right? Hoorah.
Hoorah.
You know,
right.
You know I wanted to be a Sid.
Their logo was the first to die. Thank you, not me. I just work Navy. I'll be in a lab back in the States down in
Well,
the
let's talk
bunker.
about the Men in Black for the kids, because they love our Men in Black and they love our travel stories. Well, the highbrow, the ones with the scientists I'm working with and theoretical physicists, they want us to talk more. What is that level with? Well, you know what it is.
They call it fog index.
Well, they call it phenomenology in some worlds, but conscious. One of the highbrow.
That's called the voice. And when the Jedi says, "You're going to go home and forget this," the hypnosis, sleep now, higher level. Same
you
thing.
have not seen any.
I
understand. So they want to know what you and I know about the other side in the L5, because we need to help China and the United States working together in the computer AI. Because
by the way,
they've been
Biden,
copycatting us for many, many years. Now they don't have to. And they're 5 years ahead of us in space on their 5-year plan.
You know, that's why the space race, why we never went to the moon when we said we did. We were trying to one-up on cosmonauts and Sputnik.
Russia.
We can't get across that Van Allen belt without losing life. I was at mission control with Ed Mitchell in 71. That's why they have that countdown. 5, 4, because what they have to do is punch a hole through that before the missile goes into it. And that's the only way our astronauts to this moment can live. We use HARP and other things like that now, but back when I was doing it, that's why they had such a precision on the countdown, because they had to blow a hole through the Van Allen belt.
Did you talk about that?
Ionosphere is what shields us from 5G radiation. Why do we want to bring it down here on the Earth? You can watch how ants are less now, and you don't see flies on cowpies because 5G is toxic. It has LD50 ratios. Dr. Beal, EAL in Florida, has written extensively on different parts of the body that are affected by 5G. You carry that cell phone around and you want to charge it on the fly? That's nuts. That's nuts. I don't carry a cell phone. I use a landline. Period. End of story. Texting. Thumb wrestling 101. You know, I remember typing before we had copy quick. We had carbon paper. That's how my manuscripts got to Hollywood.
Right. GPS wasn't even here yet, was it?
Well, I had a computer and I had internet in the 70s, but I'll tell you what, it wasn't like it is today.
Right.
And right now, everything is being censored. And Microsoft got this cloud. What is it, Cloud 365?
We have to use Microsoft. What else could we use? Everybody uses Microsoft, even the Chinese.
Start with Linux. That's a good platform. You can't hack that as easy. And or you reduce the possibility of easy hacks. Page 2. So you work with Proton Mail. I can break Proton Mail. You can, well, you know, on Tor browser, and you can do all the things you do. Guess what? When I moved from Bluehost, I moved from in the fire into the hot spot. Squarespace is not a very nice place. And if you don't believe it, check out the complaints on it. Just do a little search. I never did. You know, Google. You know,
Bluehost was through GoDaddy, but they couldn't. They had different servers, Dr. Rick, and they couldn't handle me. Bluehost asked me to please leave. I gave them the money.
That's what Squarespace is doing. They hacked me internally, knew it, didn't tell me. And now they can't replace it. And guess what? I'm going to move. He knows that. And I'm going to take that particular individual's job with me because he's the one they use to BS and gobbledygook. And guess what? I'm going to come out of this where it costs them money, not me. And I'm tired. I don't want to fight. And unfortunately, like Amazon, I'm even with God's help, I couldn't pick up a big enough rock.
Amazon ran our books up, though. We need to tell people what they did, Dr. Rick, for you and I. We had publishing companies, folks.
Actually, it doesn't matter.
They ran our numbers up so they couldn't sell our books, so people wouldn't buy them.
Well, no, they started printing on demand from a half a dozen different shills.
Well, they told
I
everybody.
got over $280,000 I can prove I lost working with Amazon. And actually, Amazon wasn't the one that started. It was Lightning Source. And I got as
I
high
started
as
with Lightning
corporate.
Source.
I got as high as corporate. And I said, who else is publishing my books? And rather than answer me, they fired me. I work with Author to Market now. But I'll tell you what, everything is compromised. And the only thing real is your gut.
I heard Trump doesn't like Bezos because Amazon, right? He was the richest man in the world. But I heard, now is this true? Elon Musk
Elon
is
Musk
man?
is a, high roller. I get a rep.
Roller.
We'll set him out in the desert with some oil like they did in James Bond.
That's
Watch
Richard
when they
Branson,
have
Sir
to drink.
Richard Branson, right? So we got Sir Richard Branson in the with Virgin Airlines, but now we've got Elon Musk, contractor. Of course, we had Bigelow.
Yeah, nuclear.
We had Bigelow.
I remember before Microsoft when Edmonton and that whole region there where they are now was where I hunted rabbits when I was a boy in Seattle. And now it's just sprawl. And actually, Seattle is dying. Channel 4, KOMO, did a wonderful spirit about the death of Seattle because nobody lives in town anymore. It's been taken over by the homeless. And Portland, you think that's about Black Matters?
That was about Amazon, though, wasn't it?
I came back from Bend, Oregon. I was over in timeshare, and I came down the old way of the North Fork of the Roseburg, and I saw 57,000 acres still smoking in Oregon.
Back up a little bit. You're sinking in the computer.
Yeah, I'm a functioning savant because I nod, I drool. Actually, I do a bunch of things. No, I've been trained to try to keep focused. That's why I'm circular and I'm all over the place. And yet it'll make the point that realize that the fires in Oregon, the worst in our recorded history, 30% of them were started arson. And there's already people going to prison on it. Why? Well, what happened is the old families had economic relief when they opened up Spotted Owl and BLM. They are now logging the unloggable. And if these people had bothered to talk to someone like me, one of my unpublished books talks about hemp as a virgin white paper. Now, you want to think about CBDs and medical as really big money? Nothing compared to paper. And right now what they're doing is cottonwood down on the Columbia River, and they use those old heli loggers where they coppice the first 8 to 10 feet of growth each year for paper. And hemp will grow 15 feet at biomass. And do you think that will last forever because of the strong fiber in it?
Well, no, I heard that McConnell was going to let them grow hemp in Kentucky because they weren't growing tobacco anymore. But that was, I moved 5 years ago.
Kentucky and Tennessee had the Claw Valley Hemp Growers Association during World War I and II, and you can see the old plants growing for sailcloth and rope and for the war. And that there's still cultivars that are growing, it's as native. They've gone native now, where it grows native all through Tennessee in the water ditches and things like that. Needs a lot of water.
Control it globally, and is it still the government's in charge not only of weapons, but I guess
called the Uniform Controlled Substance Act. And the reason I wrote my first book, The Magical and Ritual Use of Herbs, because I found 28 herbs grow natural that are legal now.
Natural.
Because I assigned rituals to them like the Indians did in 1948 with peyote. The American Indians weren't using, Native American was not using peyote. That was way down in central Mexico, in Mexmecan and that area where brujos would do it. I have a picture of Don Gennaro literally flying from one teep to another that Peter First and I took in a rare magazine called Arts Canada. Don Juan was a composite. Don Gennaro actually worked, and it's like a flying squirrel. They glide. They can just glide. And how do they do it? I don't know yet. Stay tuned. That's another thing I try to study, because as I study this, I am now the magus that came in from out of the cold. It's the way Terry put it. I'm learning how to do this so I can teach it to everybody, not just elite. That's why Lodge was always, Blue Lodges, not American. Blue Lodges were always reserved for the ultra elite of philosophers, poets, writers, playwright, Shakespeare. I'm third generation. This was my great-grandfather's out of Zurich. He mentored Rudolf Steiner. That's why I'm in agriculture, different than Steiner. And I'm fourth generation Nelson line. You can find me in Holy Blood, Holy Grail. And I can tell you, these lodges were for the secrets in terms of trying to evolve to the next level. And what I'm doing, testing it on myself to show you how I did it. Now, everybody does it differently. That's why they say all roads lead to Rome. What I can do, anybody can do. But you need a North Star to know which direction you're going. Are you going toward or away from Rome? And I can tell you that most people don't have a clue, and that's the purpose of ritual, is to have a switch. When you go from normal, mundane, or what they call the profane, into the sacred. That's Morsigliati.
Well, can we talk about integrative medicine with the government? Because they have a division of integrative medicine with the government. And I found out about it when I was, my daughter Gigi was at Moffitt Cancer Center. So they brought in art and music, and they didn't bring in the cannabis, but
well, they wouldn't study ibogaine, which I told them they should, because I'm an advisor to the FDA, which that part of the FDA functions out of Portland, Oregon, not Washington, D.C. They wouldn't do it because it wasn't. And so what I did is I had a friend down in Homestead, Florida, put in 2 acres just before the hurricane hit and acclimatized. And now there are 13 universities studying iboga plant. And that plant, that ibogaine, we don't know how it works yet. I have a model, but it doesn't mean I'm right. That will stop any form of addiction with one single use, 80%.
Good. My daughter needs that.
I'm not talking about heroin now. I'm talking about things like spousal abuse, gambling, pedophilia. The list goes on. In other words, all of these things are not, oh yeah, the Indian has a gene in them that makes them like alcohol more. Yes and no. That's BS. What is true is that it's learned behavior, because you didn't know that when you were a child sucking. What happened is you had a traumatic birth delivery. We all did. What happened for me was that when I came out of the womb, the first thing that happened to me, that doctor hit me on the ass. And then he took me off to be fingerprinted because I didn't even bond with my mother. And then chopped my penis off. They call it circumcision. Oh, you won't remember. You don't think that doesn't have trauma? And why dogs are different? Because of the way they're whelped in a litter. That's called spiritual midwifery with, what's his name that wrote, he formed The Farm out in Tennessee. At the time, he taught a course at Berkeley I took called Monday Night Class. And then his wife wrote Spiritual Midwifery. And let me tell you, the way we're whelped into this union is how some of the scarring begins right out of the canal. You know, I went from this nice warm place into this cold hospital. I'm being hit and everything else. Came out crying. Of course I cried. Why would I want to come out of the litter like that?
Do you share your hypnosis and levels? I've heard you on a video or two, but could you share it for me?
I study with Gill Point School. That's the American Council of Hypnotist Examiners. I'm a hypnotherapist. That means I can practice hypnosis legally in any state.
I saw you teaching a class on one of the videos with a gentleman, Matt Stein or something like that.
Yeah, Matt is dead.
Is he still around? Is he still alive?
He died 2 Christmases ago. I can't believe it.
Oh,
We always, yeah, we thought he was going to always, a little skinny.
Yeah, he looked good fit.
Well, he ate this weird stuff. Yeah, he's green movement, bowel movement. Oh, he's looking at his turd to make sure he's healthy. Matt had an aortic aneurysm, and he was climbing a mountain, and he was dead before he hit the ground. And we always thought he'd be the last man standing. One never knows. You just live every moment as if, and that's what is called sacred. When you are mundane, I gotta go to work, I gotta get up, that's the profane, that's normal life. Sacred is when you do a ritual. So the old magicians, we used to let it smell bad. They hadn't taken a bath in months. And then when he's going to do a ritual, before he does it, part of his ritual is to clean himself, clean his clothes. He smells good.
Is that why we do incense, or because people really stunk in India? I buy incense.
That's bathing in the Ganges. Trust me, I'm kidding.
I love India, by the way. We work with them in our groups, of course.
How did they put it in
cyberspace?
Labyrinth? Smells bad.
Oh, bad.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I love David Bowie. David Bowie was my friend before he died. He'd come into my bookstore whenever he came to North America. He always made it to Seattle. And he'd come into the bookstore and he'd say, "Okay, Rick, what do you got for me?" And I'd start pulling weird things off the shelf.
Did he like metaphysical books?
David Bowie? Get a grip, girl. He did Man of Fell to Earth 1 year before Frank Herbert wrote Dune. He's an alien going to Earth looking for water. Get a grip. Yes. He was in the metaphysics. Of course he was. Get a grip. Yeah. I did my bookstore.
Get a grip.
Yeah, I did the
paranormal. I didn't know David Bowie.
Yeah, everybody likes him. How about
his music was.
See, that's why I did 20 years as a volunteer at the Brit. I don't hear music, I see it. I'm like a little kid. The colors, that chord, he did a 7th, but he didn't get there right. He's experimenting. I can see what they're doing. I can't play. Steve Miller, my cousin, can, but I can't do that. But I can tell you, Terry Cassidy's boyfriend is a world-class drummer in jazz. You got Buddy Miles, and you've got the Chambers Brothers. It goes on. That guy is really good.
Was Buddy Rich a famous drummer?
Who? Buddy Miles. Yeah, or there's a bunch of different ones in history, but Grutch played with one in Super Session. I forget who was that who did the.
You like musicians, don't you?
Huh? What's that?
You like musicians. You talk about them frequently.
Well, music is how your higher self talks to itself and what you're hearing. Voice of the silence, the right ear, by the way, FYI. According to the Upanishads, you don't hear it in the left ear. Even lefties don't. I don't know.
According to the Upanishads, or the Upanishads?
Yeah, voice of the silence.
Out of India?
Lost chord. It is.
Is that Sanskrit?
In all the different forms in India, and I went to India looking for, just like Jesus did. What you find are some holy men, like a sannyasa, that will give up everything, just walk.
Can you go to that word samyasan, because we use that in space. Samyasa is a teacher in space.
Well, a sannyasa in Hindu is an individual that gives up everything: his clothing, his money, his everything, and he walks out into the world naked, and then the world either allows and gives him something, or it does not, and that's where that individual can find enlightenment.
Well, why is it that they teach us to come down here after we've died? We're called samyasis as teachers. Is it because we're born in the womb and we come out naked? Because they call us samyasis.
No, but that's a good way to look at it if you like. Doesn't
matter.
Well,
that's from the beings above. The Nordics are those that I work with, extraterrestrial. Inside the government.
I'm going to guess that in some minor ways, I can do things a Nordic can't, and that's why they're here.
Well, I worked with the Nordics in Moffitt Cancer Center and then some from South America. But the ones they were most interested in were from the Netherlands and Norwegian types from because of the alien
Vikings gene pool.
Vikings.
There it
Yes.
is, man. The Viking gene pool.
Well, do the Vikings have anything to do with Irish and the Celtic or the stories?
Of course, that's all primitive stuff with their own sciences. You know, Findorn.
I'm going to say bye.
But the first book in parapsychology was R.D.L. Lang and Action with Spirits and the Secret Commonwealth of Elf, Faun, and Fairy. And actually, that was 1897. When that first book appeared, that was the beginning of parapsychology. And when para meaning beyond, like.
Not with Aristotle. I thought it started.
Beyond also in Greek. That's why I do metaphysics, because it's beyond physics. In other words, you have a worldview that is beyond anything, and you take it down into a special application into physical plane, or the emotional plane, but it's like something more.
Well, why were I don't think it was the Nordics or the but. Can you tell me, Carrie has traced, and Janet works with the Anunnaki stories of the old, very old in the
Nephilim, actually, when I taught at Shiprock, the Navajo have serious legends of giants that were cannibals.
So when you say Anunnaki, you say Nephilim, and you say
Nephilim,
giants?
Giants. Yeah, they were here, they're in the Bible, but in 1820, a giant skull was discovered in Pennsylvania, and I have pictures. And what happened is they went to the Smithsonian, and then it disappeared. And the BBC came to me to interview me on what I thought might have happened. And that's a simple one. That's an easy one, because it was when the guy that formed, what is it called, the Mormon tradition, Joseph Smith. Yeah, he stole
Angel Moroni,
a flock of members from a Methodist church in Pennsylvania. And what happened is that Methodist minister went after his flock for 20 years, all the way to Utah, trying to get him.
Feather, Joseph Smith.
His two sons ran the Smithsonian, and because that religion was formed on a close encounter, I'm going to guess they were trying to vet their father by dumping that head.
So the Methodists control the Smithsonian?
No, the two brothers did. They were the sons, not Methodists, no. They were sons of a Methodist minister that lost his flock to Joseph Smith. And that's
Joseph Smith was very much into the Masons.
Masonic here in America is nothing. It really isn't that big a deal. They might think so with Skull and Bones. I taught at Harvard. They made a run at me. I've been offered at the Bohemian Club. Everybody.
My husband
stop.
asked to go there with Ronald Reagan.
Stupid ritual. They don't have goat turds from pork and beans. And what I am.
What about the different groups?
That was offered caliphate for the O2O, and I turned it down. Okay,
well,
what?
they have different groups of musicians and poets and come together to make decisions.
Trying to be a little secret club.
They don't let women in. I know about it because my husband was.
We'll let you in as a Job's daughter, and then we'll start you up into Smithsonian. Look,
President Reagan.
What Dr. Strange said in his comic book. Here's the secret: the power is in the secret, and the secret is the power. Sleep now. Oh man,
you're good with that.
I've had eat because I knew eat.
Well, can you? I believe that. So.
No, I'm just kidding.
I am watching you with Gary Cassidy.
It's very important. In all my length, girth, and width, I'm just no different than you, and no more important. And you have to get off your couch, stop eating those chips, lose some weight, and start doing why you chose to be here before I can leave. Please.
That's for everybody.
I'm stuck here.
You keep telling me the Bodhisattva rule. I know the Bodhisattva and the Buddha, right? The Buddha.
Yeah. I was raised I actually grew up in the Philippines on Shaolin, a northern Shaolin form. The only other person I've found here that boxes like me, same form, is Stormin Norman Jackson. Stormin Norman Cantwell. He's out of Chicago.
Stormin Norman, wasn't that the guy? My husband worked for Stormin Norman.
Yeah, well, I studied.
That was in Desert
and
Storm.
John Leong had only 4 students. He had Bruce Lee, Skip Ellsworth, Fred Williams, man, big Black Panther, later did a Shinryu karate, big afro and all of that, and me. There were 4 of us, and that was out of Chinatown in Seattle. Excuse me, China. And
there's a lot of history. We're going to have to put you down weekly or something. You've got a lot of history.
I know. Well, I've got people in writing my autobiography. That ought to be a joke.
Oh, okay.
There's on my website, I've started selling all my appurtenances that I use, my robes. The robe I sold went to a kid. That robe was Samuel McGregor Mathers in the Golden Dawn, and then it came to May, and now I've given it to this kid in the Okanagans. I'm selling these things because guess what? I don't need them anymore, and I need the money. I need the income. They are hampering me. Buy my books. I have just acquired patrons. I have 40 manuscripts that are now.
You're doing Patreon now? Patreon.com?
No, I'm talking about I have a patron, guy that's loaning me money.
You do Patreon.com so we can all contribute to that.
I use GoFundMe or PayPal. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
PayPal. Yeah, GoFundMe, whatever. Patreon is the new one. I don't like to have money given to me. What I like to do is an exchange. And sometimes, like with you, I don't have money, but I can certainly introduce you to whomever you want. That's how I pay my webmaster. I'll do the intro for you and Carrie, because I'm certain that Carrie will be as interested to meet you and may do an interview with you. You know, your background is interesting, and she likes that kind of stuff.
Thank you. I do my best to share what
it's no big deal. It's just what's important is I now want to do something more than radio. What I want to do now is do studio. It's time for me to move to the next level so that I'm actually able to truly get my information out there. Your audience is limited. Coast to coast, after 1 hour, they cut me off because what I was doing was something really important. And Carrie didn't. You caught that interview.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, then you tell me what I have to offer. And why would anyone want to censor me?
No, YouTube is going to be, this is going on YouTube. It's going on Spreaker, and they distribute iHeart, Spotify. Of course, we get Stitcher on Blog Talk Radio. But I'll put this back in my archives, too, on my TJ Morris ET Radio, because that's one of the older brands. But I want to market you with UAP Associates, but I'm not sure you'll be okay with that.
The problem I'm having is I can do anything. My skill set is that there isn't anything I can't do.
I've noticed.
I've always never been best. I've always been second best in everything. Now, with that said, I can't do everything. I can do anything. I can't do everything. I have a shopping list of people I need. I need a literary agent. You know who my literary agent was when I first started? When I wrote the X-Files? It was Bernard Shercliffe. He was Time Warner editor. He did Mad Magazine. When he retired, he moved to Grants Pass, Oregon, and we met. And when he met me, he came out of retirement, taught me how to write a screenplay. I wrote it. They took it. Then they wanted me to move to Hollywood. And she would
do proposals.
Well, I didn't want to do that, so they brought Carter in and used me as advisor up in BC. That works. I don't want to live in Hollywood. This adrenochrome. You know what that's about? It's old actors want to stay young, and they rub these enzymes on from little children because they have stem cells. However, if you envision in your mind's eye that chill, you know the chill you're talking about, the goosebumps? That is how your body telling you you're generating stem cells. That means you can make yourself younger with your mind's eye. And that's the secret.
So maybe that's how you can help everybody while we're staying at home under COVID-19 is set up let's all pay you a little bit of money into one class.
Well, I'm going to learn how to do Zoom tomorrow. Someone's going to show me how to do Zoom. and I'm going to take my aquaculture course for children and Magic 101 for adults. And I'm going to use Zoom where I can be on live, where the things are all dialoguing. And while I'm lecturing, someone has a particular tangent question, no problem, set it up. And that is where spontaneity becomes serendipity and synergy. And I was the first artificial computer with Project Paraphile when I presented it down in Claremont. And I did that with embryonic holography, and they weren't even interested in the computer I did. They wanted embryonic holography, and for the next 10 years, they came to my bookstore, placed me under arrest while 2 military went through my files. Then I called my lawyer and the police.
Do you have so you have a record, a rap sheet at your age?
No, I'm not a rap sheet. I wasn't placed. I was temporary arrest.
Oh.
Well, they went through my files, taking them illegally, and then I can call the police.
Is that like William Finney?
I almost went the other way, like I do with bullies. Or I take a baseball bat when they're not looking, because I can be very dangerous when I'm threatened. That's what IQ is.
That's humans in general, right?
Well, they can't do that, but they did it. That was the military. It was the Army. Oh, and by the way, those assholes that look at goats, that was 10 years after Navy did it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah. And
well, what about Fort Meade?
When we did studies with Elder Hoffman, it was 10 years later that people were leaping out of buildings with CIA.
Oh, now, you're talking way back.
What's that? Yeah.
You're talking.
I'm quite familiar. And CIA,
are you talking back to Hill and Cotter?
Got their notes and everything, including domestic, which is illegal. Yes.
Well, Majestic 12 is still running with the CIA, right?
No, that's not CIA that does that. MJ12 is its own thing, just like Homeland Security.
Well, I mean, but CIA.
Yeah.
Do they still honorary give the director of the CIA the #1 code or not? From Hill and Cotter?
You mean after Herbert Hoover ran it? He had everybody on his list. You know what that's L. Ron Hubbard writing about battlefield Earth and leveraging.
Oh, okay. L. Ron Hubbard.
Blackmail. And I'm ready to do that.
That was true. That was true during the time that after World War II and Hitler, right? Now we're talking way back history.
No. That's not way back history.
Well, L. Ron Hubbard is best known for
well, guess what? His body that he was
I guess.
I'm the physicist that didn't blow himself up. And so Jack started JPL. Watch what I'm going to do.
Oh, everybody. Now tell us about Jack with JPL, because he
Jack
comes
Carson,
up a lot in UFO.
A physicist like me that understood what magic's potential concepts were as a field of study for advanced physics. And L. Ron Hubbard was a Klingon, grade 3. All I am at liberty to say is I'm above grade 7, which is.
How did they get all those people to sign those billion-year contracts, which is time, and they believe it? The people believe it.
I have a one-way ticket to Mars by NASA.
Well, they get them to agree to time and space, and they program them to believe that they can take the programs out of them when they're programming them to take away their wounds, right?
Well, there's your opposite sides of the universe that you wanted to talk about. Into the out of. The one is the same because neither are real. The only thing that's real is imagination.
Right, and that is your forte. That is imagination. Now, can I tell you this? When you tell me to talk to,
I love Saturday Night Live. The new is different. Fridays was good. No, I don't want to.
Well, going around getting you're such a delight.
The path that connects the two paths of God. You go to God either as the hermit on the tree of life, as the hermit or the lovers. You either do it androgynously or with a reflected mate in the external world. And the one that forms in between, humor, goes right through the middle of the abyss. That means it's a temporary place because it's a roaring stream. And I, without hesitation, leap out into the middle of the water and I touch on a stone that you can't see under the water, leap to the other side, That's what Daath is. D-A-A-T-H. And that's a path, middle pillar, that I'm writing about. High priestess going to God, which is the third way to God.
Can I evoke some magic right now?
Magic K or magic with
you're
a
gonna
C.
love this one.
Sleight of hand or sleight of mind.
I want to invoke to the universe in this film that we've created between the two.
You already have. You do not understand. Once you've created that thought form, it's like a drop that hit water. Those ripples go out forever.
I want to evoke a new AI being that looks like you, and we can sell Dr. Ram dolls like we do Barbie. Ken,
Star Trek.
Dr. Ram dolls.
I don't know. I'm two minds with this. Oh,
Market. No. But AI. No, we had one of Philip K. Dick, right?
Yeah. Data. That's a good concept, you know. And the Borg. Resistance is futile.
Can we talk about Philip K. Dick? Do you like? Since we talked about L. Ron Hubbard,
I've got books on my website by Isaac Asimov. I go way back before Dick started writing. Let me tell you, man, I'm an early reader. I couldn't read in third grade. Ricky is too disruptive. He asked so many questions. Fourth grade, Mrs. Reed. Yeah, Reed.
What about Heinlein?
Huh?
Do you like Heinlein?
Heinlein, Stranger in a Strange Land. I was part of Green Egg. I wrote for Green Egg and the Church of All Worlds in 1969 with Tim and Morning Glory Zell. Yes, that's based on, that's Stranger in a Strange Land.
Janet likes him.
Paganism is all about.
That's, I think, who turned Janet on, that and Zachariah Sitchin. But there was another book. It's in my collection.
Heinlein was a classic writer. There's some really good ones. There's Semak City. That's a good book. It's about dogs taking over the earth after man evolves and goes somewhere else. That's
well, I do War of the Worlds good. And then my husband, I got a lot of people in Hollywood thanking me because on UFO Digest in Canada, I didn't even know they read it. But I did a movie review on War of the Worlds sitting with my husband when we both had extraterrestrial books out there based on what we created in our dimension, which was really created by the government because Ronald Reagan wanted to know the same thing that Harry S. Truman wanted to know, and I guess Eisenhower. Do you you go back like I do? Who was the president? Harry S. Truman was your president.
He's the one that when Roswell, and it wasn't Roswell, by the way. Roswell was most likely those balloons that they were doing to try to change.
No, we did have a down.
Oh, just hold on a minute. What happened with that crash? Where
that is a cover-up.
There were 2 dead aliens and a dying alien, and when that dying alien died, they did an autopsy, and then a 4th alien, Krill, appeared wanting the body because they can resurrect it. Now, right. That's how I was told in the secret documents I saw. That's what I was told. And it was Harry S. Truman that did that.
2 were killed and the 3rd was injured, shot. He was shot by an army guy that got scared because he was emotionally trying to talk to his head. You know how Krill did you?
Like he saw me go into an epileptic.
Right. So when he did that, the troop got scared and shot him.
Yeah.
But he didn't mean to. He wasn't supposed to.
I'll tell you what. Unlike X-Files, the truth is not out there. It's in here.
Well, I saw it.
It's different for each of us, and that's what they call the Nordics and the others, because all of this is whom you're about to become.
Well, the people that I work with. Oh, can I ask you? We're going to get really heavy here, but the gold. You saw Cocoon, right? With the gold beings. Yeah. There's not only silver beings, there's gold beings. And the reason I believe that is because I've seen them.
Rays of light in theosophy.
I believe of those in the Anunnaki when they use the gold to put over their
planet. You know, there's all different colors. That again, remember the difference between bandwidth and color.
Color and bandwidth. I don't know. I'm going to have
light and color. Light is a more information on color. higher resolution.
Well, why is it that humans can't see outside of the Milky Way galaxy?
What do you mean, we white men?
Humanoids are.
No, you missed that one. That's Tano.
Well, I'm a biological.
Man, I can see outside.
No, I can. I do. I don't
just
live.
kidding. Yeah, I'm trying to say something here. Johnny Depp is really kind of cool. I really liked him. He sent a bunch of bikers up in a limo to have me come down to the Viper Cub that he owned early on, wanting me to teach all the people there how to do absence correctly. I showed him how to remove the ear. That was optional. And just kidding. I have written
Absence. Is that green stuff that they used to use?
That's the green fairy, please. What happens when you
do they still use absence?
When you lose this mixture, there's a very rare narcotic that falls out that's green, and the color of that is whether it's in there or not. And that's where the green fairy comes in. And the key to it, here's the secret for all you guys want to get high, is the difference between the dropping of the heat and then hitting it with ice water. And the further you can make that temperature bandwidth, it's more green fairy. That's how you do it.
Well, when I was at NASA when I was a little girl, 1967, 68, and they brought me in because I was psychic, but I died.
I just retired from military.
You just retired?
Yeah, well, that's when I started all my paranormal studies.
That's what I thought, but they told me I'd never get out. They told me I would never, ever get into 214.
Well, there are clubs, like I'm Navy intelligence. That's different than Navy. I'm not a vet. I'm a GS, government service.
But I thought.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. In 1987 to the day, November 10th, 1967, I was brought in for ACIR, but 20 years later to the day, I was brought in as a rehire into McLean and stayed at the Falls Church, one of the hotels. But they brought me in for 2 days of writing, and they wanted me to show them how I do TM, Transcendental Meditation, how I read cards and tarot cards. And then they showed me the Men in Black in my, but they kept me monitored and brought me back the second day. But let me tell you, doctor, I'm not stupid, but the lady told me she did not put anything in my arm, but I saw her when, I was a kid, yeah, but I was a corpsman, for God's sake. I was already trained by the Navy, but she put this milky stuff, and then it made my nose run and everything. And when I came out of that polygraph, all the people that were waiting for their polygraph in Falls Church or Tyson Corner, wherever the building, it wasn't in the main CIA building where they did the polygraph.
CIA does. They interviewed me there, and I chose, when they ask you that question, they'll ask, what is the most memorable experience? And I talked about a rock festival in Seattle when Tina Turner came on stage naked. I saw 30,000 people get up all stoned on acid.
Well, why do they use people like us? And then they told me not to worry about it because they'd send me all these letters that I didn't work for the CIA.
So what happened next was I didn't work for the CIA. I worked for Navy intelligence.
Yeah, I worked for the Department of Navy, but they said, do you mind if we buy your contract? But that came from a psychiatrist that was asking me about being a Latter-day Saint or a Mormon. Because I was a Mormon. I was a Latter-day Saint. I was.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, we got a wild one here. Let's see if she dances. Oh, watch yourself, girl. These guys are creepy. And what I did.
That's what everybody said. They're creepy.
Yeah, and what I did is I played their own game and could outthink them in the end. Just like I'm going to do everybody else. I don't like what they're doing to me. It's really wrong.
Well, naval intelligence.
I'm going to invoke Liber Oz, FYI. Everybody can check that out. Liber is book OZ. I'm not the wizard anymore. I'm something far different. I'm really, it's about survival.
Well, yeah, you teach that, how to survive on the planet. Now, isn't that why you're important to the extraterrestrials?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
It was the emotional intelligence.
What I do know is that I don't.
Well, I know that you're important to emotional intelligence because I was told so. because they do use imaginations. And we had a problem.
Here, I'm going to show you a book I have here, right here. What's the,
with AI and emotions.
No. Here we go. What's that say?
Imagination is reality.
Yeah, what's the bottom line?
Western Nirvana. I can't hold it up.
Okay,
some.
Western Nirvana in Jung, Hillman, James Hillman, Barfield, and Cesar. And this is my book, literally. I tore apart this book. This book I read, what year? Oh, there's my I Ching that I did when I was, to find what the book was going to do.
It's because we were interested in metaphysics. They were interested in
this is in 1980 by Robert Evans. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Their medicine right now is trying to show how psychedelic mushrooms get rid of it. Depression, this post-traumatic stress syndrome. SIBO, you can change it, heal your body 60% rather than 10. Allotropic medicine is broken. I did Harvard Medical, and my intern was at the UW. That's another PhD I have.
A lot of education, a lot of money was.
Oh no, I have 4 doctorates. But wait a minute.
Wow.
It's not about education. How did Batman put it?
Because I don't have any doctorates.
Well, how did Batman put it?
I was told to work on AI.
It's not who you are, but what you do that defines who you are. That's the comic book part of when I was a kid growing up. The concepts of being a moral person, to know who you are. That's why you choose a church. You want to find people that have a similar belief to help you reinforce becoming better at that. And at some point, you move from this church to that, Unitarian. Today.
Oh, they killed me. I'm not alive on planet Earth. The Latter-day Saints killed me.
I go to different churches.
I tried to track my records.
Find out what they're teaching in this community.
The Chicago records killed me. But I thought it was because they threw me out of the intelligence community, or was it because they wanted to use me? Why do they kill people in the Latter-day Saints?
You're expendable. That's the deal.
I'm dead.
Was an asset, and today I have handlers from half a dozen leaders, including Putin.
Well, I don't know that they threw me out
right now has no agenda.
I just know that I'm dead on the records at the Latter-day Saint Church. But because they told me I'd never be out of the naval intelligence ever.
Well, that's a club like you're never going to get out of the chess club. By the way, that movie, Queen's Gambit, I knew her when I was, she's the same age as I am, approximately. And I didn't play chess like that, but I played Go.
Can we talk about that?
What?
AlphaGo.
Yeah, I trained in Go. The Chinese checkers and all the different. You had to be a master at that in order to get even into Chinese military school.
Yeah.
As an officer, and I was doing that as a kid. Chess is one level. Go is much more, and then you have 3-dimensional chess. I don't know if you've ever played that.
That was one of my questions. Yeah, I did play chess from the time I was little, but my father insisted. He was a mathematician. But he made me play chess from the time I was born.
Math is only one level of it. Is it 4:30 already?
It's 2:03. Yeah, we've been on 2 hours. I guess you're ready to sleep.
2 hours. I've got to go get some dinner, and I've been. Oh no! I love working with you. You're fun.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, no, we're fun. We can go anywhere you want, and I can. I've got stories, and I tangent. It turns out that's what makes me different is that I'm circular. I'm not linear. I don't go just right straight from. That was why Matt and I were, Jack Spratt could eat no fat and his wife could eat no lean. That plate got clean. I really
appreciate your time on Earth, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, Dr. Rick Miller. You told me to call you Rick and a colleague. That makes me feel good.
You are. We're colleagues. I'm not superior. That is a really important thing because about the time you think you are, because no matter where you go.
Well, can we use the ACIR?
Huh?
I was told at NASA that when the ACIR was reforming, there could only be one, and my husband was it, and then I was it when he died for the Allied Command that works with the extraterrestrials and the intelligence community.
I see what they're
So
going to use you for.
is
I
that
already know.
because of the Majestic 12? They codenamed me Magic, MAJIC.
Huh.
So if my code,
Whitley Strieber's books are fiction, of course, but he's a very good writer.
Whitley Strieber,
Yeah.
well, he said he met some people in New York, but I thought he made one that was not fiction.
Yeah, he did a couple of them actually.
Well, you always change when I tell you something about me. So should I not tell you anything about me?
Oh, don't be insecure. Don't do that.
I'm not. I'm just asking if it.
Yeah, please. Yes. What do you mean I changed?
Well, you'll see on the tape.
Cross what?
You took a step back and you changed your personality.
No, I'm listening.
Oh.
Oh.
When I'm listening.
Relaxed. I'm not animated anymore.
Oh. Okay. Apologize.
Code blow.
No, I am you're talking to a cyborg. I am a cyborg. I have titanium and screws.
How did they put it? Oh no! That was when Lessin played as a pharmacist taking his own pill.
Well, I've been called a cyborg, but I took it differently when some people came on the radio show. But they came on with Jan, not Jan Aldrich, Jan, what was his name? Harzan. Gosh, he's already left the building like Elvis. Jan Harzan was the director of the MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, but he is no longer. So Captain McDonald is back in charge. I sometimes get you confused in my mind, Dr. Miller. For some reason, with Captain
Miller's a really common name. There are 3 Richard Allen Millers just in this neighborhood here, and one of them, not me, is a 3rd generation satanic group out of Medford. And wow,
Let's try not to get you involved with it. Have you talked to Carrie Cassidy about her fascination with a girl that changed her name? It's called Ashiana Dean now, but she lived with Tommy. You know, the man that they lost that film that you and I did with Tommy Hawk's Blood? He can't find it.
When I talk to Carrie, I'll call her tonight if you'd like, and I'll try to see what I can do. Stay tuned and Film at 11 on that.
Well, tell her she promotes those books, but they're from the same location. That part of my mind, I was trying to get you to go with me to M31 in Andromeda so I could talk to you.
Do that. There. But we're not going to do that publicly, and that's sacred time when I pull out my TARDIS.
Okay.
I have a machine. Do you know what it is? It's a new book I'm coming out called The Diamond Body. The 3 books I wrote are being published right now on video feedback systems and how you can simulate any drug experience to go into these altered states without having to take drugs. And the Diamond Body, the Diamond Body.
I have to.
What's that?
I said, I don't have to. I died 2 or 3 times. Well, I'd like to talk to you about dying and leaving your body and your heart stops and all that several times, 3 times in this reality.
Well,
but it does give you another side to the
Alexander and I spent 2 weeks in the jungles in 2014, and that butterfly on that leaf was not his sister, the dead sister he never met. It was most likely, and I said this to him, I had epiphany. He's a neurologist that wrote, what was it called? Proof of Heaven. Proof of Heaven by.
Well, there's another reality on the other side because I've been there too many times. That's why I want to talk to you.
Kubler-Ross and James Hillman taught when I studied under them. But the tunnel of light is when you return here, according to the Bordeaux-Thadal. And the blue light choice you have is when you get off the wheel and you go back to the Lord.
Well, which one is it when you go to White Sands? My uncles worked at Los Alamos. I've had several family members.
There is a Portuguese movie called Astral City. You want to watch that movie? It has a conversion into English. It's called Astral City. It's about a doctor that watches himself die on an operating table and what happens next. It's an exceptional. It's called Astral City. Trust me.
Well, I've done that several times, so I saw myself.
That's what Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and others write about.
Jan and I got started with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross when we were kids, but we're different because we have a reality that's not of this earth, and we're okay with that. So we believe alien civilizations exist, of course. So we believe we're all extraterrestrial and we're all
that's arbitrary. See, it turns out all of it's real. Now, what does that mean? Anything you could possibly imagine God could do, 7 days Earth, you can do now. If you used your full potential, you're not. And that's less than halfway to the Lord. That's the truth.
Will you help me with bits, qubits, and the entanglement?
Sure, entanglement, that's quantum mechanics and why we dumped it for holographic systems. And now, 45 years later, I've got another model about imagination having to do with proton clouds. And that's that kid that just did me second generation Russian writing on it down in San Diego. Proton clouds, yeah.
When we bring in the AI, but Dr. Rick, one of my messages was about AI and artificial intelligence, and you call it from maybe the future, when you had that thing that you did. So me in the future has a connection like you do. That machine.
Everybody does it differently. All roads. All right. Roads.
Well, I've seen yours in the future when you're building those domes with those.
The Mars project. The Domes of Mars is a screenplay that now Fox picked up, and so I'm going to Netflix. Netflix picked it up. Yeah.
You mean before? Are they going to pay you for it?
Huh?
Are they going to pay you for it?
Stay tuned. Yeah, I hope so. But I haven't gotten. Where's the beef?
Okay, you got to go eat. Okay, well, love and light then. So you think maybe in the next year?
By the way, it's not love and light. To be precise, it's Gimel. G, the camel. Light, life, love, liberty, and law. FYI.
Yeah, I wrote that down the last time. That's the one. That's the one we lost in 2020.
There it is.
So we lost all that.
Give up your civil rights for safety, you lose both. That's Benjamin Franklin.
I love being American. I can't imagine being born anywhere else, although I have been.
The biggest bully in world history. It's also, no matter what else is said bad about it, it's the best government in world history. And you don't throw away my Datsun 280Z, you fix it.
Okay. Well, I know that we covered a lot and we did go circular, and I hope that it's okay to put this on YouTube, and you're going to have a copy. Jan will have a copy, and then I will distribute this, but this is open source intelligence, which I was hoping to talk to you about, but we'll get into a lot next time.
We got lots more shows to do, huh? Maybe a weekly question and answer, and I'll bring in some weird alien friends of mine that might make it more interesting as the spice of life.
Wow. Would you like to do that?
Wow. Florida, I don't know, man. The place I'd go for you is down in Keys, Key Largo, and go to Dolphins Plus. That rehab center is so far beyond what Hawaii's doing, there's no measurement. Dolphins Plus, they have an open pit where the dolphin can come and go when it's been hit by a shark, and now they can rehab there safely. Wow. I met some aliens there. That's what a dolphin is. When you go in the tank with them, you get to go in the tank. That's how they support you. Pay. You go through a class in the morning, and then you go into the tank all day, working with trainers. When I was in the tank with dolphin, I felt like I was in the presence of higher intelligence. No question.
I'm sure. Open source intelligence, and then. Well, I look forward to what you teach us, and there's so much you know that we don't, and I don't know how you keep it all in your head. It's amazing.
It's in this hat.
What is that on the top of your? Is that a dragon or an alligator?
Neither. It is both. It is the club I boxed when I was a SEAL. It's called Hangao, to be distinguished from Hungar. Dragon form is everything's in circles. And it's like you have a big tail and you whip yourself. And when you whip yourself, there's no defense against that. It's 4,000 years old. It's like a salamander. You're coming at them like a wiggle.
I
And
saw
the
that
only other
recently.
personality that uses that in today is Stormin Norman Cantwell. He's really way beyond anything I am. He's big muscled arms.
So that's not Schwarzkopf. That's
What?
not Norman. You're not talking about Norman Schwarzkopf.
No, it's Norman Cantwell, the boxer that was a hitman for the mob, had died, came back to life, and is now a very spiritual person with no memory of what. Well, I don't know if he remembers what he did, but this man's gentle, and yet okay. Hung Gao has no offensive moves. If you hit me in my right shoulder, this arm goes right through your ribs. Boom.
Wow.
It's always a response to something that happened to you. I don't initiate.
Well, you're well trained.
Against them. That's Hung Gao. Hung Gar is the more popular one, and then you have other forms like Wing Chun and all the other forms. The one I did was Dragon. That's what Hung Gao is Dragon.
Wonderful.
That's why they
You've
call it.
got so much to share.
That's what he did. He had dragon form.
Well, I hope YouTube will save this and we don't lose it. So, and I will make sure I put it in my archives. I pay for 2 places, Blog Talk Radio and Spreaker, so I can assure you that.
I have a massive thing in Dropbox. I've got that. The problem with all of that is when the grid goes down, where does all that information go?
Well, yeah, when the electricity goes down, that's why you're important to extraterrestrials, because when you come to this planet, we don't know how to survive. So
that's what I do is survival training. I am right. Called that. Okay. Another email I have is the postman 1944 at protonmail.com. And I'm known as the postman to most of North America because I have bunkers everywhere. And what I do is the networking. And I've been doing that since '84.
Do you remember when we were doing EMP and they put it in Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Electromagnetic pulse?
That's that big thing. You got to go down to Arapahoe. They're using a missile silo where less than 12 families can feed 6,000 people. That's using aquaponics. And up there, the Oppenheimer Ranch project across the border is, I've got them all over the place.
Aquaponics.
But I have
Are you that person? Oh my gosh, they're going to be talking about you. And also in that new movie with the Cameron guy, that's going to be something that extraterrestrials are training. They're bringing in people for new places in the tarot card game.
I will say, and Hobie, that there will be a period when the sun burps out for approximately half a day, but we don't know where it is. It's going to sterilize everything on the earth.
Is that 12/21/20?
10 feet between you and the sun. And when you come back up, you're going to need everything, including the seed.
12/21/20, that's this year, right?
What?
Solar. But it's not like a solar flare, but it is
I think that there's going to be an event with that
it's volcano. It's a radiation.
City.
It's for that gold stuff. Remember that gold stuff when they put me under, when they took my neck out and I couldn't talk? I said I would do this if God would give me back my voice. So be careful what you ask for, right? I lost my voice. They touched my vocal
big one like I did. That's why it's only for spirituality, and then it doesn't matter what it costs.
Right. Well, they took my voice away and I couldn't talk. So after 3.5 months, they said I'd never talk again. So what I did is I promised God.
One of those little talk like that.
Yeah. I got the scar right there, right? But they put the titanium in. But he gave me my voice back, but I told him I would sing. So I did become a singer-songwriter, and I joined CMA, Country Music Association.
Do not want to hear me sing.
Short period. So 2004, and then I liked my voice, but not that much. So I'd been singing since I was a little kid. But I really appreciate what you're doing, and I know that you're called by God. I don't know if that means anything to you. You're God, my God, and this is something I'd like to talk to you.
Oh my God!
You're God. I don't know if you're God or my God, but we have a lot of the same communication information, right?
Well, or we have a similar thread.
A similar thread. I do know we have similar experiences in this reality,
What are
which I
different
don't understand.
similarities and similar differences? That's John Boehm and the implicate order.
Okay. Well, it's 2:19. We've got 30 seconds before it's 2 hours and 20 minutes. And so I've never had one 20 minutes over. I guess it'll be okay. But I'll load this.
You can clip all that creepy stuff I did in the early.
Oh, I'm not going to edit any. No, we started this as a regular edit. We didn't talk for the first.
Blackmail me just like L. Ron Hubbard did, huh? Leveraging.
Oh my gosh, I didn't. Okay.
I'm kidding you. I'm kidding you.
All right. Well, if you'd like to do a weekly, you think about that, and maybe on Tuesdays we can do that if it's a good time for you.
Well, let's start with see if your audience is even interested in hearing what I have to say.
Well, I know yours is. You've got 1,400 people following you on Richard Allen Miller on YouTube.
I don't care about that. Yeah. Carrie Cassidy, when she did that interview last week, I mean 2 weeks ago, she had like 49,000 views in less than 2 days.
Well, let me tell you, Dr. Rick, I was never one for collecting numbers, and I have my stuff spread all over the place, but I never put them in one place because I was doing GoDaddy since 2004. Had I kept one name.
GoDaddy. This Squarespace is wrong. Google is wrong. YouTube is wrong. Facebook is wrong. They're all. Never mind.
I have to pay them. I have to pay them in order to get the best coverage. But GoDaddy's been good to me. I'm a reseller on there, but all my little products are on the bottom of my American Communications Online.
Your hair again, girl.
I know. I gotta go. I'm hungry. All right. Love and light, Doctor, and thank you, Rick, colleague. And is it okay to put you in ACIR, Allied Command Intergalactic?
I trust your judgment. Just go for it.
What about UAP.associates?
If you have a problem with it, I'll have a problem. If you don't have a problem, if I do, I'll say something. But I don't know. I don't care.
Okay, it's just blogs. Is all it is.
You ought to go to my blog and see what we did.
Richard Allen Miller. I have.
It has a blog. I did my first blog just a little bit ago. Check it out and see how that Buddhist thing works.
RichardAllenMiller.com, right?
Yep.
And can we still get your books on Amazon? I still got to get your ES.
Amazon carries them. I just got another. I've been selling a lot of books on Amazon because I haven't been bitching about it like I used to.
Oh, good. They dropped your prices. I said drop mine.
Still, Create Space is still publishing a bunch of my stuff. If you go on my titles, you'll see a whole bunch of people selling it new. Where did they get those books? Because I'm the only one printing them, and I'm the only one distributing them. How do they do that?
So they finally gave you, well, they took me and you off as publishers because we use the word publisher, but we don't use it now. They took me off of publisher and Lulu.
I have to be Oak Publishing, and I've been doing that before Amazon exists.
Well, I had Timely Manor Books. My mother started, and I worked in a publishing. I was a catcher. And
different. There's 10 to 20 selling my book new. Where did that come from? And why are they doing that? And where did they get that book? Because I didn't give it to them. So it's printed illegally. And I have several in my file that are printed in one state, shipped from another in 5 different states. I've got them ready to go to court when I find the right lawyer.
Well, that's how we got started with APRO and NICAP and Don Berliner and Stanton Friedman, because there were books being sold. And there was a story between Stanton Friedman and Don Berliner, but I was like the investigator at the time. But they were selling some books, and Don Berliner told me to let him know, even in Washington and Oregon. So, but then I lost contact for whatever reason.
It was from a lightning source, because rather than tell me who else was publishing my books, he fired me.
So they get them and then they use them for their own money because we won't know. They think we won't know.
They don't have to pay a royalty. They don't have to pay the author because, oh, he's dead. It's illegal.
And our copyrights were nothing.
Yeah. Anyway, it's nice seeing you.
Thank you.
How did they say in The Prisoner? He's seeing you.
Oh, let me tell you this. J. Allen Hynek, when he died in 1986, he didn't tell me he was dying. I was supposed to meet with his secretary and ask about his office, and they were in transit. But Jan Eldridge, I think, has the 13 file cabinets back, or either Kufos does. So where are all your files going to be kept if you and I disappear off the planet?
Oak Institute.
Your mother, your daughter, your...
Oh, Mike Mandeville, an old friend of mine, that now runs the Edgar Casey Foundation.
Oh, Edgar Casey.
And not Edgar Casey, mine. And he was my roommate when I came out of graduate school. And Mike is down in Tucson right now running Edgar Casey, and he said he'd run my Oak Institute. And I don't know yet where that home's going to be. It'll probably be in a library, like maybe at Pullman, where I did Washington State, or it's not going to be Harvard. It's not going to be MIT. It's not going to be Delaware. Those are the places I did graduate school. It might be UW, Seattle Public. I don't know yet. But Oak Institute has started a new Harry Potter-like school for children. And the way I'm going to do it, when the great-grandchildren are starting to take Harry Potter from anything, I'm doing mine a lot differently. It's not going to be like Cloud Atlas. Basically, I have this repository, and I'm going to ask the child what it wants to know, because that child's smarter than me and does not know it can't do something, and that's where innovation occurs. And there's a need for educational reform, just like social distancing should have happened 10 years ago. This virus has some possible spin on it that may lead, everything happens for a reason, and everything leads to something better.
Well, I hope they'll leave music, and I wish they'd bring back working out at the gym, or being for children in junior high and high school.
Well,
are you seeing this writing?
Where the child is best set, it's the sandbox, and so I started aquaculture. They're going to send our children home early and not send them back to school. By the way, that's where the child gets its immune system sharpened.
In sand and dirt?
Well, yeah, Ben has breeding grounds of grade school. That's where Mom, she exposed me purposefully these things.
Well, we could go on.
They're trying to control us and give up our civil rights for safety. And what's happening is we're losing both.
Security and cybersecurity. Well, I hope to talk to you in the future about AI and Russia.
Don't be that way. I'm here. I'm not around.
You've got very good chi and very good. What's the other word? You've got you like to play. You're a good kid.
Claire, I like to tease.
Did your mother call you Ricky?
I was Ricky Rocket. Now I'm Rickety Rocket.
Ricky Rocket. Wow.
Well, I moved around fast.
Stan Lee? Did you by any chance meet Stan Lee?
Stan. I wrote some of the early Doctor Strange comics with Stan. Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea. There's so much.
I've been around a long time. I smell bad.
To get history.
I've got to go.
Okay. Love and light. I'm going to stop the recording now.
Nice talking.
Okay.